All right, SIG 23. It's 14 December 2020. This next one, China's New Silk Road runs through Latin America, prompting warnings from the U.S. October 6, 2020, by Mary K. Magistad. This is first put out by Public Radio International. If you know anything about Public Radio International, they have a particular bent. I would say it lurches leftward. So, with that, China is interested in the Panama Canal for both its economic viability and cutting time and costs on shipping routes, and for its strategic and symbolic value, with China aspiring to replace the U.S. as the global preeminent power. For 20 years, Hutchison Ports, a Hong Kong company, managed ports at either end of the canal. A Chinese state-owned company plans to build a bridge, or planned to build a bridge over the canal. Another has built a convention center and a cruise ship terminal on the Pacific side of the canal, where the Chinese government also wanted to build a new embassy until pushback from both the United States and Panama caused them to look elsewhere. Several other Chinese projects were also proposed since Panama joined China's Belt and Road Initiative in 2017, including a high-speed rail system across Panama. Belt and Road stands for a belt of land routes and a maritime Silk Road of sea routes, which is what China aims to build with its Global Infrastructure Initiative, and most of the world's countries have signed on or expressed interest in it. Panama shifted its diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to China in June of 2017, a step needed to join the Belt and Road project, the Belt and Road, later that year. The president, Varela, also said he gave the Trump administration about an hour's notice of Panama's decision to join China's Belt and Road Initiative. Soon after, Chinese products in Panama started being scaled back, canceled or rejected. A $4 billion high-speed rail project was canceled. A $2.5 billion monorail project linking Panama City with its western suburbs went to South Korea's Hyundai instead of, as earlier expected, to a Chinese company. The Panama Canal bridge, to be built by a top Chinese state-owned company, was scaled back. Yeah, I believe that's the one that's supposed to now be going 50 meters under the canal, because I believe the United States has issues with any bridge going over the canal. Negotiations between Panama and China for a free trade agreement stalled, and Panama's government said it will audit Hutchison's ports and is considering whether to renew its concession when it expires in 2022. Now, welcome to the 21st century of the Great Game. The 19th century version had Imperial Russia and Imperial Great Britain vying for influence and access to resources in Central Asia. Now, it's the world's two top economies vying for influence in the world, the United States as the incumbent premier power, and China as an ambitious contender for that position. China, patiently and methodically, is using its Belt and Road Initiative to expand and strengthen its strategic presence around the world, including in what has long been called the United States backyard. China has been investing heavily in Latin America for more than a decade. It has built roads and dams in Brazil's Amazon rainforest as land is cleared to grow more soybeans for export to China. It's also built or expanded ports in Peru, Mexico, Panama, a dam and surveillance system in Ecuador, and dozens of other projects throughout the region. In Latin America, 19 countries have now joined China's Belt and Road Initiative after a decade in which trade between China and Latin America increased more than 20-fold. The hope across much of Latin America has been that signing on to Belt and Road membership would bring more Chinese investment of the kind each country needed and more opportunities for Latin American countries to export to China, narrowing often sizable trade imbalances. This hasn't always happened. Venezuela and Ecuador in particular now have high debts to China and new economic woes in the wake of COVID-19. The region's four largest economies, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico, still haven't signed the Belt and Road Initiative agreement. Together, they account for 70% of Latin America's gross domestic product. But the Chinese telecommunication company Huawei is already building 5G networks in Mexico and Argentina and has done pilot runs of its 5G technology in Brazil. Mexico has always been open to build up a strategic relationship with China, but always very, very clear it has to be a relationship that is well balanced. We don't want to create any type of dependency, not to China, neither to the United States. Mexico's former Secretary of Economy, Ildefonso Guajardo, told Isabella Cota, a Mexican journalist and economic correspondent for the newspaper El País. Later, Cota, a partner reporter for the On China's New Silk Road podcast, said the hit Mexico's economy is taking from COVID-19 is causing the government to consider the best way forward. Mexico's central bank has warned the economy could contract by almost 13%, and that 15 million or more Mexicans could fall out of the middle class and into poverty. Chinese investment in the Mayan train, a 900-mile-long tourist train on the Yucatan Peninsula, and in an oil refinery may help. But, Cota says, many Mexicans are looking to the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the new North American Free Trade Agreement, more than anything else. Mexican officials are just so hopeful that this is going to be the thing that makes the economy come back in Mexico, Cota said. I'm not sure it's going to work out that way, at least not immediately, but this shift in mentality is important. It's been kind of like being more grounded, being more realistic about Mexico's opportunities. Cota says it's not clear yet how Mexico is going to balance its long-standing and close economic relationship with the United States and new investment opportunities that may be coming from China, like a big-ass lithium mine. But I think that they're going to try and get the best of both worlds, she said. And you know what? Quite frankly, I hope they do, because we need as much investment and as much opportunity as we can get in Mexico. This last one is from T21.com, Mexico. Hot land for investment, says the Chinese embassy, November 12, 2020, by Enrique Duarte. So that's November 12. All right. So the one I just read was October 6, 2020. This next one is November 12, 2020. Despite the fact that Mexico ranks low in the absorption of Chinese investments in Latin America, the Asian giant does not rule out that the economic and commercial relationship will increase in the near future. China considers Mexico as a hot land for investment, said Zhao Chuanming, counselor of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in the Latin American country, present at the annual convention of the Mexican Association of Private Industrial Parks, carried out by virtual means. The official recalled that in 2019, China invested $6.39 million in the Latin American region, where the $610 million in Chile, $460 million in Brazil, $350 million in Peru and Argentina, respectively, and just $160 million in Mexico. The last data barely represented 0.2% of the total foreign investment that Mexico received from the world, but the room for mutual growth will be great, said Zhao Chuanming. Likewise, he highlighted that the country shows political stability, a high range of established industries attractive for investment, such as automotive and aeronautics, as well as a large export base, market size, geographic location, and natural and energy resources. From January to August of this year, local total trade between Mexico and China amounted to just over $50.745 million, with the deficit balance for the Latin American country at $41.145 million, according to data from the Ministry of Economy. Most of China's exports to Mexico are intermediate products, such as electrical components and auto parts that are sold to the domestic market and third country through reprocessing. T21 recently published that Chinese investments are expanding throughout the industrial real estate market in Monterrey and its metropolitan area, motivated by the effect of the so-called nearshoring, or the location of industrial infrastructure as close as possible to the main consumption centers, in this case the United States, nearshoring. During the third quarter of this year, there were 8 transactions by Chinese companies, both manufacturing and logistics, occupying almost 79,000 square meters of surface in different industrial parks, or between 25 and 30% of the total demand of the market that was shown in that period, when in the past it barely represented between 5 and 15%, according to Solili, a real estate information platform. The entry into force of the agreement between Mexico, the United States, and Canada on July 1 has been one of the greatest drivers for Chinese companies to consider the location of their companies in the country. And it has even been the effect of reshoring or relocation of American and Canadian companies that were in the Asian market, according to Lopez. Likewise, despite the fact that most of the projects are on hold due to the effects of COVID-19 on the economy, almost 4 out of 10 investment initiatives that industrial parks have received in Mexico come from China. A marked trend predominantly by nearshoring, according to an internal AMPIP survey carried out in the first 2 weeks of August of this year. By strengthening mutual integration in the industrial and value chain, the two countries can learn from each other's advantages and complement each other. China is willing to strengthen strategic cooperation with Mexico to take advantage of structural advantages, said Zhao Chuanming. The official invited Mexican businessmen to travel to China to the trade fairs that are held precisely to initiate relations with Chinese partners. Now, some Chinese companies are interested in coming to Mexico, but since they do not know this market very well and do not have a Mexican partner, that is why it hinders their entry into this market, he said. Zhao Chuanming was open to establishing a more open relationship with industrial parks to attract Chinese investment in the country. It may be the beginning of a larger wave of Chinese companies from different sectors that can establish themselves in Mexico, said Lorenzo Di Barro, president of AMPIP. That's all I've got for China-Mexico news right now. I'm going to look at Canada, China. All right, y'all take care.